We are back, baby. We are back.
We are back.
Hey, I mean, can we can't get enough football, Chad. I mean,
No,
we
man.
are we are true Dolphin fans, man.
Let's go.
And we know that there's more of us out there. So, guys, this is for you. Anybody that wants to listen to us, extreme fans. So, thank you for tuning in. Chad, how you feeling, brother?
Yeah, Juan, I'm feeling good, man. It's so funny. You go through these emotions as a fan, and I just want to take people in to my crazy brain, and I know kind of your crazy brain because we talk about it a lot. Why do we do this? Why do we talk ourselves into everything just working? like like I've talked myself into Caden Proctor was the exact right move. Like legitimately one. I've talked to myself, I mean, not all the way there yet about Caleb Douglas, but I've found more and more. And by found, I mean, I'm actively going down rabbit holes searching for anyone to say anything positive about Caleb Douglas and then be like, yeah, he's right. He's right. I will say this though, and I know we're going to get into it a little bit. Going back and watching some tape on a couple of these guys, you do get excited. I know we are a broken record to say this, but the more and more you look at it, the more you see the vision. And I will say this, Chris Kaufman, if none of you guys follow him, he's CK Parrott on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. He did this thorough breakdown. I'm talking, you're going to be reading, you're going to feel like you're reading from a dictionary, but he talked about how Sully said, Juan, all about prototype. He said slow or fast gets slow, but big doesn't get small. But then if you look at our day 3 picks, the Trey Moores, the Kyle Lewises, the Michael Taft, the Kevin Coleman, the Seydou Traore, those are smaller guys. Those are guys that don't fit the prototypical size. Even Jacob Rodriguez, he doesn't fit the traditional linebacker, which is why you and I both loved him, but we said, oh, they will go with Jake Golday because that is more of kind of what the vision is of this new, bigger format. But what he did say was there's production, and you and I talked about that. So when I look at this class, I still am in the B range, but the crazy part about it is it's all going to depend on Caden Proctor because he's going to get compared to CC. He's going to get compared to Spencer Fano, even though they were taken before him. He's going to get compared to Blake Miller, Max Ianachor. He's going to be getting compared to all of these different tackles, and then he's going to get compared to Caleb Downs and Ruben Bain because those are two players, one taken right before him because we traded it, and then one taken picks down. And I did a little bit of research, and it actually turns out the Ravens got sniped, dude. So the Ravens had a trade in place because they had 3 prospects that they liked. They liked Kenyon Sadiq, they liked Vega Yone, and they liked Ruben Bain. And they had a trade in place to drop down to stay in the teens, but pick up 2 fourth-rounders. And supposedly that team backed out. So the funny part is, anytime you now hear Ravens in a trade and it getting backed out, it makes you think, well, they did it themselves. Yep. But how devastating would it have been to watch Ruben Bain in a Ravens jersey along with Elijah Surratt in a Ravens jersey? And because they ended up picking Zion Young, obviously, but like they would have taken Ruben Bain, and then they probably would have taken, knowing our luck, Jalen Farmer, because the Ravens just like to take our guys. But I saw that. I thought it was interesting. Needless to say, I'm coming along even more and more. In my brain, what it's done is it has officially said, we killed the draft. I feel great about it. I know the identity, and I'm excited. So that's where I'm at, Juan.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Chad. Our brains operate the same. And I know a lot of Dolphin fans feel the same way, where you're seeing the picks, you're seeing the plan in place, and you're thinking to yourself, one thing is what I want. One thing is, okay, these are the best players, but there's also such a thing as what are the best players for our system? I'm looking at Douglas in his highlight film because I could not sleep last night. I had to take a sick day today. My neck was super stiff. I guess it was just from there, just watching the draft and not moving because I literally did not move. I was just watching the draft the whole time. That and also wrestling with my daughter because she's a very hyperactive child.
And the cutest thing ever.
Thank you so much, Chad. And I'm watching this. I'm watching the highlights, brother, and I'm comparing Douglas to what you saw, what we all saw in Green Bay with Malik Willis. There was a lot of times he was just throwing it up to these guys, just
Yeah.
throwing it up to Reed and to Watson, taking advantage of their size.
Yeah.
And you don't deviate from success. When you have success, you replicate that or you build on
Mm.
that. So if Malik Willis' best version of himself comes with 6'3", 6'4" receivers that typically run a nine,
Mhm.
all you got to do is throw it up. Well, you have to give him something. And if the
Yep.
guy that you want is not there, the next one up is Douglas. You have to respect the board because we
Yeah.
paid a lot of money. And that to me, I love that because it shows you're all in with Malik.
Mhm.
We're not
Mhm.
half-assing this. It's okay.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
all in with Malik Willis, and I now see the vision.
Yeah.
With Caden Proctor, you send me a video. This guy was benching what 500 something pounds, squatting 800 something pounds.
It's insane.
That is insane because it's one thing to be that size. It's another thing to not have that popcorn muscle. Just because you
Ooh.
have that size does not mean it does not equate to you having the strength. Very clearly, Caden Proctor has that strength.
Yeah.
Now, I have to dig a little bit deeper sometimes because I hear about the weight issues. And you clarified for me, Chad. That was year one.
Yep.
That hasn't been an issue again.
Nope.
And he's all
Nope.
ball. He wants to dominate. He wants to be the team he wants to be the guy that leads the team with pancakes. Just hearing that kid talk, he backed up his talk. Yeah, he did have some games where maybe
Florida State.
Florida State, it wasn't there. But how did he progress? We all have those games.
Yeah.
Ruben Bain, which I love the guy, he had a game against Texas A&M where he did make some noise, but man, I thought he was going to do some more, especially after Trey Zune talking all that smack. I'm like, man, you don't want to wake this beast up, but you have those games. Not saying that he had a bad game because it's not comparable to Caden Proctor, but the best version of yourself should come as the season progresses, and that's what we saw with Caden Proctor. So
100%.
with Proctor, I'm absolutely on board with the pick. The whole thing with Ruben Bain, and you mentioned now him going to the Ravens. If he would have gone there, there's that attachment that I feel with these Hurricane players, man, where I want them to do good. It's that sentimental side of things that
I
you're
agree with
attached
that.
to them because you're Canes fans, so you want to see them succeed. And then that nostalgia of, man, Ed Reed and Ray Lewis, the Willis McGahee, that next great Cane to be a Raven, and he's going to ball out. But he went to Tampa, and I wish him nothing but the best. But just like him saying, if you're not a Buck, I don't like you.
Yeah.
Man, listen, I'm happy for you, but you're a Buck now, man.
Yeah.
And I touched on it at the last podcast. I would find anything to critique an FSU player or a UF player. But once they are on the team, because Mike Pouncey, when he was on the team, that was my guy.
Favorite.
I don't see, they're in the background. I don't see that Gator logo anymore. I don't see that Seminole logo anymore. You are now a Miami Dolphin. Yeah. And I think that's where it comes in, that you convince yourself these guys are going to do good because they're on your side. And I think that's something that should come natural to a lot of folks. But even more so, there's tape to back up where, for example, Douglas, you're seeing that success that Willis had using those type of receivers. So you see that there's a plan in place, and now I could say, okay, the pick now makes sense.
Yeah.
Taking it. One of the comments that we had there, we took an injured player. We took an injured player that was projected to go in the first round. That the doctors are saying he's good to go. He should be ready by the start of the season, and he was projected to go in the first round. 6'2", kind of a version of Deebo Samuels, Jarvis Landry. A combination of those two guys, gritty, tough.
Yeah.
Dude, I think we absolutely crushed it with the draft. And one more thing before, because I'm going to forget, Kevin Coleman, they were having the interview, and they were saying, all the guys, because you preached versatility, Kevin Coleman is just more of a slot receiver. Somebody said, time out. He's a punt returner too. I think that's versatility.
Yeah.
I think that's versatility. Yeah.
So. I love it. I agree with everything you said. I think the coolest part about it for me, and you kind of alluded to it, was you talked about film. Every player has that bad game. The FSU game was week 1. He wasn't 400, but he was a little over. I think he said he was like 370, so he had to still catch weight off. When you train, and I know I mentioned this name, and we're not sponsored by them. I wish we were, but Duke Manyweather. you have to understand the type of guys that he brings in and the type of guys that runs it. Taron Armstead is one of the main like trainer like teachers there, and they both talked about it. Caden has something you can't coach. There's not many humans walking on this earth that look like that, move like that, and are built like that. And Omar Kelly was on the Joe Rose show, and he mentioned that Bill Parcells, which I know Dolphin fans, we have a kind of weird relationship with Bill, but the one thing you can't question is his ability to bring in talent. And he said he called them world players. And when he said if you have a team full of world players, because remember he's also the guy. If you have if you have an exception and you get two exceptions, you start having a team full of exceptions. Well, Parcells obviously said if you have world players, those are guys that they're walking in the world, and they're not built like everyone else. So to your point, 6'7", 352 pounds, squats 800, benches 500, and he ran a 5'2", which I don't know if people are like, oh, in the fives, everyone hears fours now. There's not many men on earth that are moving like that at that size and to have that strength. So I'm incredibly excited to see him at guard. I believe he'll be at guard next to Patrick. You and I have talked about it. But we also mentioned on the pod, we believe he'll end up being the right tackle of the future. So if you have bookends, 6'7", Pat Paul, 6'7", Caden Proctor, and then yes, Brew is smaller, but he's dynamic. So you're building a wall, and we've asked for it over and over and over and over again. The difference, because I was like, oh, well, Chris Greer drafted Austin Jackson. Austin Jackson wasn't a projected first-round pick. He was a projected second-round pick. He had a terrible senior year. He didn't have nearly the hype, and he had just gone through that bone marrow surgery where he was donating to his sister. So the profiles are different. Now, people are like, oh, we drafted Rob Hunt. Yes, we did. And then we let him go. Like that, we traded up for Liam Eichenberg, different player. We traded up for Jonas Avainaya. Who knows what's going to happen with him? He's still an unchecked evaluation. What's nice is he now has a full year of NFL experience. He's going to have a full year plus of weight room experience in an NFL offseason program. And let's see if he goes on the right side and he flourishes. That's the hope, right? So I love the Caden Proctor pick. It's so funny because you and I both love Jacob Rodriguez and Chris Johnson, but we don't talk about them as much because they were home run picks. Those are you and I keep using the term boring. Those are boring picks because they're going to go in there and do their job. If Chris Johnson performs how we think he will, you're not going to hear his name a lot because they're not going to be throwing him the ball unless he's making picks. If Jacob Rodriguez does what we think he'll do, you'll hear his name a lot because he'll force fumbles, get fumble recoveries, get pass deflections, get interceptions, but he'll be guiding and directing traffic. And don't be surprised, people. We've said it numerous times now. He's a green dot guy. So don't be surprised if he has the green dot year one. And then with Caleb, I made a comment, and I'm gonna parlay it into the other part of this. I said if Caleb becomes Juwan Jennings, we've won. And there's a report that we're interested in Juwan Jennings from Barry Jackson, who's very credible. And we've been interested in him since the start of free agency. The issue is the money. Now, the way I look at it is a couple of things. If Juwan Jennings is smart, and this is why I've loved Juwan Jennings for the last 3.5 years. I literally had to pull no diddy, but I've wanted him. So I'll say this. You don't find a lot of 6'3.5", 215-pound receivers with length that can run block like he does, work across the middle like he does. And again, a theme that you and I have been talking about is he has some edge to him. He's kind of a dickhead, and I kind of like that. And if I want Caleb Douglas to be the next Juwan Jennings, what better than to have Juwan Jennings in the building? Now, what Juwan Jennings has to decipher is, sure, maybe because he wants $15 million a year, I don't think he's going to get that. I think he'll be closer to around 8 to 10. But it depends on situation. If he comes to Miami, he's automatically wide receiver 1. There's no state tax. He's with a quarterback like Malik, where you just got done saying that he thrives with receivers with length. This is an investment where we're going to have $140 million plus of cap space next year. Ball out with us, show us, and then get an extension, or ball out with us, price yourself out of us, and go get a contract elsewhere.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping. So I get excited about that because if Caleb Douglas can become Juwan Jennings, which I said when we drafted him, we've won. And that's why I keep going back to it. The rumor was we wanted Malachi Fields. We were high on him. And then the Giants traded in front of us 2 spots. You and I were texting about it like, dude, why does it feel like right before we're picking, we're getting traded in front of? Even though we sniped the Jets of Jacob Rodriguez, we sniped the Patriots of Trey Moore, and we sniped the Bills of Chris Johnson, which is great, right? Those are division rivals. Us getting Caleb Douglas instead of Malachi Fields, the reason I like it is Malachi Fields wasn't a run blocker the way that Caleb is. And it was great to hear one of our player of our personnel kind of talk about his blocking. And I don't think people truly understand how important that element of the game is and what we're trying to build. You bring Creighton Proctor to help the run game. You get a DJ Campbell at guard to help the run game. You get a Will Kazmarek to help the run game. You bring back a Greg Dulcich to help the run game. Like you bring in a I can't think of his Jalen Tolbert to help in the run game. You bring in a Malik Willis to help with the run game. You don't trade a Jalen Wright because you want to establish the run game. And that's the one thing Caden Proctor talked about was the run game. So for me personally, I'm excited because of what Caleb Douglas can do there. And I think we can build off of that. Now, the prize is Chris Bell. And that's my question for you, Juan. I want to know 2 things, and they could mean the same player. I want to know your favorite pick, and I know we kind of talked about it in the last pod, but your favorite pick overall, and then your pick that you think is going to have an immediate impact in the first 2 years.
Yeah. So let me start with part 2 of that question. Yeah. And I don't think you're going to expect this answer from me, but I am going to say now Douglas is going to have the biggest impact for the first 2 years. Okay. I saw the tape. I saw what he did at Texas Tech. Obviously, he does need to get stronger, but he brings a lot of what Reed and Watson brought for Malik Willis and for that Green Bay offense when Malik Willis was balling out. For that reason, if he could continue to build, which I think he can, because I know they did their due diligence.
Yeah.
I believe that he is going to have the biggest impact the first 2 years, outside of the obvious, which would be Caden Proctor and Chris Johnson.
Yeah.
So that's who I'm picking there. And I listen, for a lot of people, that was the biggest reach. That's fine. We're picking what fits the system. It means absolutely nothing if you get a baller, but we can't use him to his strength because what we have in place is something totally different from what he brings to the table. With Douglas, his strength equates to what we are looking for. So I love the pick. I love the pick now.
Yeah.
I think it's going to work out. I think a lot of people are going to be pleasantly surprised.
I like it.
Yeah. As far as the pick that my favorite pick overall, did say Jacob Rodriguez, but I don't want to use a cop out here.
If that's your favorite pick, it's your favorite pick.
I know. Well, can I have 2 favorites just to make this a little bit more interesting?
Yeah.
2 favorites. All right, I'm going to say another obvious. Chris Bell. I'm really high on him, man. I'm super happy. We landed him, towards that tail end of the 3rd round, basically the end of the 3rd round. To get somebody like that where he is going to be healthy. I'm sure that the doctors did all the checking that they needed to do, because if they did not, you would get somebody like Jermod McCoy. So we did all the checking we needed to do. If that guy is anything like the way he was at Louisville, that is an absolute steal. That kid is a dog. I still have nightmares about what he did to University of Miami, man. Just finding that soft spot in the zone coverage.
Goodness gracious.
Just breaking it loose, man, taking it to the house, dude. If he could do that for the Miami Dolphins, you got yourself an absolute dog there. So those would be the 2 guys that I would say. And Juwan Jennings, man, that is a name that I saw too, that we're looking to get him. If we get him, I was like, dude, talk about speaking it into existence.
Man,
Dad, you mentioned it in the last podcast, and lo and behold, there it is. We're interested in Juwan Jennings. Listen, if Malik Willis, he was the biggest domino to fall when he took less. We don't know what the contracts were, what the offers were. But I would like to say that he took less to come over here because he believed in the system, and he's betting on himself. Juan Jennings, listen, man, sign a 1 year deal. How many do we got? 14. Be that
Yeah.
number 15 guy.
Yeah.
We're gonna have a lot of salary cap space next season. You
Yep.
ball out. You're a good fit for our quarterback. That's our quarterback for the long haul. We're gonna want to keep this thing going. You will get signed. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be something right there.
Yeah. I agree with you with all of it. I think for me, the player, and I'll use the cop out that I think will have the immediate impact in the first 2 years is Chris Bell. I think if he can get on the field halfway through the year, because I know people are saying, oh, he'll be ready by the season. Well, you guys, he just had surgery in November. So, it's been what, 5.5 months, 6 months? Like, typically an ACL completely healed is 9 to 12 months. So, I could see him working his way in and then having an impact halfway through the year. And then year two, just absolutely crushing it. My favorite player that we drafted, it's really hard for me not to say Kyle Lewis because of what he does. And I mean that because I truly believe he's going to be the Joker for us. And for those that don't know and they haven't listened to Fins Up Talk, a Joker is kind of a do it all role. He can play in the box in a 4-3 setup, which is four defensive linemen, three linebackers. He can play in a 3-4, which is three defensive linemen, four linebackers, with the two outsides being more traditional outside linebackers and the two middle being middle linebackers. He can play big nickel, which we talked heavily about. He can drop back and play some safety role. He's just a chess piece that I think gets Jeff Halfley's creative juices flowing, and I think that impact will be had. I see it a motivated player. I see a player that's like, I shouldn't be here. And John Eric Sullivan kind of talked about that throughout the offseason. He said, I'm a new GM. I've proved nothing. Jeff Halfley's a first-time NFL head coach. He's proved nothing. These free agents that we've signed, they believe they're a lot better than what we gave them. We want as many of those guys. And now you drafted dudes thinking the same thing. Sure, Caden Proctor and Chris Johnson, they were both expected to be first rounders. Chris Johnson was on the borderline. Jacob Rodriguez got first round hype. But Chris Bell thought he was going to go on day two early, if not first round. Kyle Lewis thought he was going in day two. You're watching Kevin Coleman thinking he was going to be in the third round. And Max Lulin thought he was going to be a third, fourth, or fifth rounder, not in the seventh round, almost at the very end of the draft. So get these guys that have this proverbial chip on their shoulder and watch them start to move and watch them start to operate. What gets me so excited about what we're going to see is, how is this all going to come together? We said on the last pod that it's not the most talented team, it's the most cohesive team, the team that works
Right.
the best together, right? Getting pieces that make sense. You get a Chris Johnson for that defense because it makes sense. I'm curious to see Juju Brents if he can stay healthy, because I was a big fan of his coming out of K-State. I think that he can provide opportunity. You saw what he did when he was healthy with the Colts, and then you saw what he did in the brief health he had with us.
Yeah.
Health has always been his issue, but you can't, again, teach 6'3", 212-pound corners. You just can't. So if you can get him motivated, a Storm Duck to play better. I mean, again, we don't talk about Jason Marshall, and he didn't do bad as a nickel corner. Yes, he was a Gator, but he obviously wasn't an outside guy, and he has the size to play in the nickel. You're talking about Chris Johnson, who's 6 foot, just under 6'1", on the outside. You have Juju Brents, who's 6'2" on the outside, and you have Jason Marshall in the slot, who's 6'1.5", 6'1". That's a big secondary.
Yeah.
We lack size with the Michael Tafts of the world at safety, and that's the part where I'm like, man, I really thought we'd go a different route. But then when you hear Joseph or Jahade Adai literally say, "You are the safety I wanted the most," it gets you thinking. A communicator, and don't get this mixed up about Michael. He's reckless. He throws his body out there, but it's educated violence, meaning he is targeting when a receiver is the most vulnerable and he's the most aware.
Love
So
that.
Yeah, that's what gets me excited. And again, the boring pick that everyone's been criticizing because we took a blocking tight end. I love Wills Kazmarek. I think we are going to be he's going to be the guy that if he had a mullet and a mustache, he would have been a fan favorite, bro. Like if he was that way. Because what he does in the run game is an extension of a 6 offensive lineman, and people are like, well, why don't we just do a 6 offensive lineman? Because if you watch the Michigan game,
Yeah.
he ran a seam buster where he was splitting 2 safeties, and he had a jump ball. A 6 offensive lineman can't do that.
Right.
When you're on an Ohio State team that had Max Clare, it had Jeremiah Smith, it had Carnell Tate, it had Brandon Innes. Where's Julian Sand going to throw the ball to those guys? Now, again, in an ideal world, Greg Dulcet's catching a lot of balls. You have Chris Bell coming in catching balls. You have Jalen Tolbert coming in, Malik Washington. You have Tutu Atwell. You have Caleb Douglas. Like, in an ideal world, those guys are. But Will's going to get opportunities.
Yeah.
And he didn't drop
Absolutely.
a ball in college. They're like, oh, well, he only had 20 receptions or 13 receptions. But when he was at University of Ohio, not Ohio State, he was a pass catcher. So it's there. So the more and more I look at it, the more and more excited I get. And again, you see the vision. But having said that, one, you and I had a discussion about a way too early 2027 draft. And there's a certain alien that should have played at the U but decided to go to Ohio State and get developed by arguably the best receivers coach ever in Brian Hartline, who, by the grace of God, finally went to South Florida so he can stop taking Miami receivers, in Jeremiah Smith. And I just want to put this out there. If Jeremiah Smith ends up in a Dolphins jersey, you will not hear a single fan, media analyst, or anyone complain ever again about John Eric Sullivan. They might build him a statue if he can get Jeremiah Smith to come back to Miami. So I want to ask you this. Do we do a way too early 2027 mock draft?
I am super down. There is never a way too early mock draft for me, Chad. We are cut from the same cloth, brother. Yes, absolutely.
The answer is yes. The answer is
Yes,
yes.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Let's do this.
Yeah,
I want while I'm looking this up, please give me your thoughts, man.
yeah, as you're getting that pulled up, just really quick, because you got your smart guys out there. Why don't we get that 6 offensive line, as you so eloquently pointed out? Because that does exist, right? There's people that feel that they know more than everybody else.
Of
Well,
course.
look at how many times throughout a season there is a 1 score difference. You have a tight end that looks and acts like an offensive lineman, but could also catch the ball. If he could catch 3 or 4 touchdowns, again, look at the scores. How many scores are decided by a touchdown or less? You can't replicate that, man. And you got the best run blocking tight end in the draft. There's an identity. We're sticking to it. I'm on board. I love the pick. I don't think it was way too early. So, yeah,
I
I'm
agree.
on board with that 3rd round pick.
I
See, we
agree.
got the mock draft here pulled up.
Can
It's
you
a little
see
bit
it?
blurry.
Let me see if I can clear this up. Hold up. Let's see here. How about now?
Yeah, a lot better now.
Okay, perfect. All right, so we said we'd only do 3 rounds. And we could have only done 1, but we already know where we'd go. I believe they base this off of what projections are currently. So currently they have us picking 2nd overall. So we're going to do 3 rounds. We're going to make it fast. We're going to pick our beloved Miami Dolphins. We're not going to do any trades, anything like that. We're going to just go straight through. We're going to see how we do. Now, keep in mind, the positions of need as of right now, this very moment, because we're psychopaths and we're doing a mock draft this early, is wide receiver based off of what we currently have, safety based off of what we currently have, edge based off of what we currently have, and then they're not projecting Caden Proctor to play guard, so guard is also there. And then a lot of people are saying corner, which makes sense. So if we're looking at top needs right now, receiver, edge, corner, safety are the big ones. So we're going to enter this. The Cardinals select first. As expected, they took a quarterback. They took Dante Moore, which leaves this absolute cyborg available for us, Juan.
Before you pick Jeremiah Smith,
Yeah.
we need a guard, we need a
Yes.
defensive end, we
Yes.
need a corner,
Yeah.
and we might need a defensive tackle. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking Colin Simmons here. That's a name that sticks out to me.
Yeah.
For the guard position, it's not one of those premier positions, so I feel like we could hold off there.
Yep.
Uh, you also got Dylan Stewart. I like
Yeah.
Robinson. I know he's not there, but he's going to be a top 10 pick for me. Having said that,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like Robinson too. Having said that, with the number 2 pick, it's year 2 now. You might want to go with a need. I would go Jeremiah Smith. I don't care
Yeah.
about anybody else.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care if we're missing the whole defensive line. I'm going Jeremiah Smith.
Juan, it's crazy because I hate that the Jets have 3 picks in this draft.
Yeah.
Because every year we say the next draft is the draft. This is actually a draft where, like, you and I were messaging about this. Quarterbacks aside, because obviously quarterbacks, you have Dante Moore, Arch Manning, Julian Sayin, CJ Carr. You have Sam Levitt, Drew Mestamaker, Darian Mensah. I mean, dude, Norris Sellers, like your boy Trinidad Chambliss, like obviously the Brandon Storesby stuff just came about of him gambling, so we're gonna stay away from that. But Leonard Moore, I saw this thing where this dude said Leonard Moore is the best corner to come out ever, and that's factually untrue because Deion Sanders existed, Charles Woodson existed, who won a Heisman. Patrick Peterson was absolutely dominant. Jalen Ramsey played corner and safety, but Leonard Moore is 6'2", 200 pounds, and he is as clean as it gets. We are not Notre Dame fans, but that man can play. And if you want to talk about other aliens, Colin Simmons and Dylan Stewart, I hate throwing out comps, but you're talking about Myles Garrett and, I mean, Jadeveon Clowney when he came out. Like, these guys are freaks of nature. Colin Simmons has been producing since he was a true freshman, and he's a guy that is going to have double-digit sacks this year. I mean, dude, you have Colin Simmons, Cam Coleman, and Arch Manning in a row, all at Texas. Like,
it is disgusting. I mean, if you draft Jeremiah Smith, if Chris Bell pans out because, he's healthy, that's the only question on him. He will pan out otherwise. Douglas turns out to be what we hope he will be. Yeah. And you have Devon Achane with that offensive line. You could put an average quarterback there. And if you cannot succeed, you might as well quit football. You're not a quarterback in the National Football League.
Now, this is people before this is because everyone's like, well, Arch Manning's there. You're absolutely right. If this was a case where Malik absolutely just pooped the bed, you take Arch Manning because you don't have opportunities to pick this high. But if Malik shows you anything, you're talking about the next Julio Jones and Jeremiah Smith. And again, this stacked Texas team, I didn't even mention Trevor Gooseby, who's going to be the top tackle. I think he'll be above Jordan Seaton. So we're talking about the Ohio State team. The reason the Ohio State team got knocked was because their players that were premier were Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles, who were both off-ball linebackers, Caleb Downs, who's a safety, and then, yes, Carnell Tate, who in this draft, he wouldn't even be wide receiver 4. Yeah. This Texas team has Arch, who's going to be number 1 overall, Colin Simmons, who's going to be top 5, Cam Coleman, who's going to be top 10 if he plays the way he's supposed to, and Trevor Gooseby. All of them play elite positions, like premier positions. So, again, us Canes fans, we do need to be worried about Texas because that team's built for it. Now, what I will say in this case, I'm taking Jeremiah Smith because of what he can do, and I'm going to go back to Sully's comments that you and I have both referenced. The best prospect he ever scouted non-quarterback was Jamar Chase. Jeremiah Smith has 2 inches and 10 pounds on him and is probably going to run a faster 40 than he is if he decides to. He's been productive since his freshman season. He's not going to sit out the way that Jamar did. And, I mean, even if and when Chris Bell produces, even if Caleb Douglas produces, they are not Jeremiah Smith.
They're not.
And if you can put a Jeremiah Smith in there with those guys, I mean, again, you went from a bottom-tier receiving core to a top-tier receiving core like that. So for me, as enticing it is to take a Leonard Moore, who's going to be a very, very good player, a Dylan Stewart, a Colin Simmons, a Cam Coleman, an Arch Manning, a Trevor Grousby, because let's say that Tatum Proctor does ball out and you keep him at guard, you put Trevor Grousby at right tackle, now your offensive line is generational. You don't have opportunities to take guys like Jeremiah Smith every day of the week. And my belief is that the reason why we only have 2 wins is because our defense is going to be young, our receiving core is young, and there's going to be growing pains. So in this case, I'm taking Jeremiah Smith as well.
Yeah. Look, Chad, I agree. I agree with you. The It could be 2 wins. Not only is it, a lot of new players, you're establishing a new identity. It's a new
Yep.
culture. There's a lot to learn. There's going to be that learning curve, and you want to see that second half of the season where you're
Yep.
like, okay, this is looking like how we want it to look,
Yeah.
and we can build on this. That's the aim. That's the goal for me. But if we're
Yeah.
here
Like
at the
the
number
Titans.
2 pick, like the Titans, and I just
Yeah.
told you right now, Chad, something that I just said. If you cannot succeed with Chris Bell, Jeremiah Smith, Devon Achane, if Douglas, if he pans out, and I know I'm being super optimistic, but the way that I hope and praise he pans out, the same goes for Arch Manning. If
Yeah.
you do not succeed now with Ryan Wingo, which I am very high on,
Yeah.
Cam Coleman, that elite offensive line, if you have numbers similar to what he had last season, then dude, I that he will not be the number 1 quarterback for me. I do
Yeah.
not, even if he plays in the SEC, dude, you are loaded.
Loaded.
You have everything that any quarterback out there would want to improve their draft stock.
Yeah.
So if it's not now for him and he still gets drafted, I think in the first round, that I think it's just the last name. They're drafting him
Yeah.
on last name.
Yeah. I will add this, not to interrupt you. If you watch Arch's last 7 games, it's exactly what it's supposed to look like.
Okay.
I mean, the guy. You want to talk about pinpoint accuracy? You want to talk about scrambling out of the pocket? I mean, dude, I think he had 10 rushing touchdowns. Like he's a different kind of Manning, and I had that same belief. Like when people said he's a savior, but dude, after the midpoint of the season, and he was starting to figure it out, and that shoulder injury was kind of a way where you didn't see him grimacing as he's throwing the ball. I mean, I'll just put it this way. If he continues on the trajectory of what he did the second half of the season, he's going to be the bona fide number 1 pick. And we're talking about a Joe Burrow-esque season with rushing capability.
I love that
So,
because Joe
yeah.
Burrow, when he played versus the Hurricanes, that first year that he was started for LSU, he did not look like the Joe Burrow
No.
that he looked the season after that season where he balled out and they won a national championship. So they do need to
Yeah.
grow. They do need to grow. I
Yeah.
mean, don't mean to be negative, but I'm just
No, of
throwing that
course.
out there because you
Yeah.
want to make sure these guys grow. But Jeremiah Smith has been that guy day one,
Day 1.
and
Let's do it.
since they first started. So for me, Jeremiah Smith.
Yep. So we see all these going. Now, again, we're not going to trade. So this is exactly what we'd hoped to happen, but I'm going to put this out here. I believe Darian Mensah, and I know you believe it as well, will be a first-round pick. I believe Princewell Umanamanilan is going to be a first-round pick. And if Drew Mestamaker decides to come out, I believe he will also be a first-round pick. This is a situation where, again, we are assuming Malik played well. Because if he didn't, we're taking Darian Mensah or Drew Mestamaker, and we're calling it a day. But again, both these guys we believe are going to be first rounders. With edge being such a predominant need, for those people that don't know, you're talking about a 6'5", 245-pound lineman that's going to end up being around 6'5", 260. Because of Dylan Stewart, because of Colin Simmons, and because of Damon Wilson for us, he's not getting the love he should. But this, to me, is the no-brainer pick at pick 34 because of what he does. And then you're doubling up, getting a bona fide star in Jeremiah Smith, a bona fide star in Princewell Umanamanilan, and you're feeling very, very good about what the future is going to look like.
Yeah, no, I agree. You can't teach that size. I do think
No.
ultimately he will end up being in the first round. But again, we're going based off what we're seeing here, what's in front of us
Yep.
now. And he's there. So I think that clearly has to be the pick.
Yeah, I agree. All right, let's do it. All right, we got one more pick left. Obviously, we still need a safety, still need a corner, we still need a guard. This is the part where it gets interesting. So this will not happen. If this
Yeah.
happens, it's because he had a Carson Beck-esque season. I look at this, and if we are living in the what we would do based off what the board says, I'm taking Darian Mensah because that is a perfect 1-to-1 of what Malik is, and it gives us that Jordan Love type of thing where we can keep him for 4 seasons. If Malik starts to show any regression, you have Darian Mensah waiting. The other opportunity, obviously, you see Ryan Coleman Williams. That's Ryan Williams, the one that a while back people were trying to compare to say that he's the next Jeremiah, or that him and Jeremiah Smith, who's going to be the number 1 overall. He had drop concerns last year. He couldn't stay healthy. His frame didn't fill out. But again, let's not forget how dynamic of a player he is. And then if you scroll down further, you see Teo Johnson at UCLA, who I believe will be a second rounder. I haven't been able to do enough work on Elijah Green to give a good enough evaluation. You see your boy Trinidad Chambliss on here. Justice Haynes, I believe, will be a much higher rated back by the end of it. Obviously, Terry Moore from Ohio State, someone that I am. Jaden Mayava is a quarterback that I think could sneak in the first round. So Whit Weeks is a linebacker I like a lot, but we obviously took a bunch of linebackers this one. So for me, given what we have right now, given what we can see in this incredibly way too early, psychotic first round or mock draft that we're doing for 2027 because we're psychopaths, I would take Darian Mensah, given what I believe he could be, and getting a quarterback like that in the 3rd round to go and sit behind a very similar player in Malik Willis, I think is a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not even going to add anything to that, Chad. I think you said it beautifully. Darian Mensah's there. You don't think twice. Pick him,
Yeah.
especially if you just got Jeremiah Smith. You want to get that quarterback for the future, and Darian
Yeah.
Mensah would clearly be that guy.
Yeah. So who knows what grade they're going to give us because we took a quarterback in the 3rd round. Little A-, look at that. So literally, we feel good about this. Obviously, again, it's fun to do these things because, one, we know fans like to see them. We see the predominant evaluators out there that they're doing their way too early. The biggest key for us, and the reason we want to do this is, for me, and Juan, I want you to kind of chime in here. Fans are going to be upset when the season starts and we're not winning. And you and I believe, and we've said it, we don't believe we'll be more than win 5 games. But we want it to look right. And we keep bringing up that word look right. We bring up the Titans, who they were competitive in all their games. We brought up the Giants, who were losing games in the last minute once they inserted Jackson Dart. Those were teams that, as you saw them, you're like, okay, they have something to build. Like, they're a team that can be from worst to first type of feel. That's what I want us to see, because I want to see that if we end up not being there where we want to be, and Malika shows us something, and our defense just simply does not perform the way that we thought, an injury happens, something like that, you're talking about a chance to get a Jeremiah Smith, a chance to get a Colin Simmons, a chance to get a Dylan Stewart, a chance to get a Leonard Moore, a chance to get a Cam Coleman, a chance to get a Trevor Groosby. Like, if Malik doesn't pan out, to get Dante Moore, to get Arch Manning, like, this is that kind of draft. So as much as I'm in love and excited about what we just did, because I believe this was a foundational building draft, a draft that you can work with, a draft that's going to show dividends in the future. I'm excited because we got the meat and potatoes. This is the dessert. This is what people wait for. So that's my opinion on it. Juan, Jeremiah Smith, number 2 overall, Prince Well, Umana Melin, 34th overall, and Darian Mensah, 66th overall. What are your thoughts, brother?
Man, Chad, wins and losses aside, if our draft picks pan out, if this is something that we could build on, we have one of the youngest teams, we have all this salary cap space, we are loaded for that 2027 draft.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you, I was looking it up now, my top 5 players for the draft. I wanted to get your top 5.
Yeah.
So Jeremiah Smith for me.
Yep.
Number 1.
Yep.
Colin Simmons. I actually have him number 2.
Yep.
Let me go down here. Leonard Moore, number 3.
Yep.
Number 4 for me, I want to say David Stone.
Okay.
Right now,
I like that a lot. Should be a Kane. Should be a Kane.
I really like his game. And then number 5, Arch Manning.
Yeah. Yeah. My number one's Jeremiah Smith. That's not going to change. Something drastically bad would have to happen. Number two for me is Arch Manning. I think he's going to, you, what he did that back half of the year was just filthy. And I think you
Okay.
gave him a Cam Coleman. I think you gave him another year to learn. Number three is Colin Simmons. I think you are literally talking about, I hate throwing out this name, and I already did. Dude, he's Miles Garrett type talent. I just, he's so good.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna choose Colin Simmons at 3. At number 4, I'm gonna stay Leonard Moore as well. He 6'2", 200-pound corners that move and have loose hips like he does, and is
Yeah.
not tight hipped, does not come around. And then I think Dylan Stewart is another freak of nature that had. I wanted him to transfer. I wanted him to come to Miami. I
Yeah, me
wanted
too.
him. Yeah, I wanted him and Lenore Sellers to leave. So I would say for me it's Dylan Stewart. But I do want to say this, and I want to have it on record. If Damon Wilson ends up being one of these top 5 guys, don't be surprised because he's getting developed by Jason Taylor. He's on a much better team next to Ahmad Moten, who's going to be a first rounder. And what he did at Missouri should be noticed. He was the better edge than Zion Young, and Zion Young was just taken in the second round. So, but yeah, my top 5 is Jeremiah Smith, no matter what, Arch Manning, Colin Simmons, Leonard Moore, and Dylan Stewart as of
Yeah.
right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, and this is
Yeah.
fluid. We have to see the
Yeah.
season play out. We're going based off the film here in 2026, 2025, 2026 season, but we'll see how things unravel here this next season.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, listen, there's a lot of talent. I think the biggest thing, and I think the most important thing for Dolphins right now is not so much the wins and losses, which again, you don't know what's gonna transpire. You don't know if we start racking up these wins and we have a great season. You don't know what you don't know. And if you
Yeah.
do end up losing, well, you are sitting in a good spot with a very
Yep.
good draft class. But more importantly than wins and losses is how are our draft picks doing? Are they
Ooh.
progressing? Are they panning out? Can we now look into other positions because we have secured the linebacker of the future, the receiver of the future, um, the safety of the future?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is the biggest thing.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I mean, in my closing thoughts, again, I'm going to go back to it. If Caden Proctor hits, we win.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
Caden Proctor hits, we win. If Chris Johnson does what we think he does, we double win. If
yeah,
Jacob Rodriguez is a clone, and I hate the expectations for it, but I think he'll embrace it. If he's the second coming of Zach Thomas, man, oh man, oh man, oh man. And if Chris Bell can come out of it, we're feeling great. Drafts are rated by this. If you have 3 starters from them, you won. I'll say this because we had 13 picks. I would like to see 3 starter or 3. Let me put it this way: 2 high level players and 3 starters. So 5 in total for me. And I think that you can get that with high level starters in Caden Proctor and Chris Johnson. And I think even Chris Rodriguez can be in there. But the 3 starters are going to be outside of those 2 are Chris Rodriguez. I think Will.
Jacob
Or yeah,
Rodriguez.
sorry, Jacob
Yeah, yeah.
Rodriguez.
No,
Yeah,
you're
sorry.
good. You're good. I
Yeah,
think you're
Chris.
thinking Chris
Yeah,
Johnson,
yeah,
dude. Yeah,
Chris Johnson. Yeah, so Caden Proctor, Chris Johnson are the high level. I think Jacob Rodriguez is going to be a starter. I think that Will Kazmarek will be a starter. And dude, I said this 2 episodes ago. If DJ Campbell ends up starting by year 2, don't be surprised. And mind you, I didn't mention Kyle Lewis. I didn't
yeah.
mention Trey Moore. I didn't mention Kevin Coleman in the slot. I didn't mention Caleb Douglas. I didn't mention Chris Bell. Something about DJ Campbell, dude. It just he's a former 5-star for a reason, and I believe in the tape. So that my closing is to your point. I want us to win just like you do, but more importantly, I want to see development. I want to see production, and I want to see the identity of this team where we are no longer labeled soft, but people hate having to play against us because they know that we're going to punch them in the mouth and we're not going to give up. We may not be as talented because we're younger, but we're going to be scrappy and we're going to keep game close.
Heck yeah, man. Beautifully said, Chad. I don't want to add anything to it because I think you said what I was thinking. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing you just said right now.
Okay.
Yeah, this is going to be a scrappy team. It's going to be a big team, and
Yeah.
I'm so looking forward to this upcoming season.
Me too, brother.
If
That's all I got.
that's it, guys. Listen, we love doing this, guys. Fins up talk, as always, guys. For the fans, by the fans, to the fans. Keep liking, keep subscribing. We're going to try to keep putting out these podcasts as much as we possibly can.
Oh,
And
yeah.
as always, guys, Jesus loves you, and
Amen.
fins up.
Fins up.
See you guys on the next one.